Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. Hope you had a good weekend. The storm yesterday behaved pretty much as expected, with one exception, and I would say that there was a little more snow overnight Saturday night, even before daybreak on Sunday, than we thought there would be. We squeezed out a lot of snow out of very little moisture, a very high liquid to snow ratio. In other words, it was probably something like 25 to 1, when usually it's closer to 12 or 10 to 1. So that created a quick 3 or 4 inches of accumulation first thing in the morning, and then the rest of the day the snow did not accumulate as efficiently. So overall snow totals were pretty close to what we thought. We went out with a forecast of 4 to 6 inches up through Saturday morning. We started emphasizing the 6 more and more on Saturday, and I just made it 6 to 7 when I worked Sunday morning, and that's pretty much what most places got. All right, as we turn our attention to the next storm, head over to ericwfmj.com for a blog post this morning all about the ice situation tomorrow, which of course I'm going to talk about in this video as well, but if you want to read, head over to ericwfmj.com. Also on my weather blog, hopefully this evening I will post a review of the winter. Meteorological winter is now over, December, January, February, and a little bit of a preview of meteorological spring, which we're in now. It's March, April, and May. Good news, bad news situation on that forecast, so I hope to get that up on my weather blog later on this evening. Alright, so let's talk about what's going on right now. As I record this at about 2 p.m., it's another one of those days where if your sun has been sitting in, or if your car, I should say, has been sitting in the sun, and you get into it, it's pretty warm in there. I had to take my jacket off on the way into work today. You know, the sun angle at this time of the year is getting stronger, higher in the sky, and it can certainly make a difference. The sun is as strong now as it is roughly in the first week of October. We are a little over 2.5 weeks away from the start of astronomical spring, which the sun angle is equivalent to around September 21st on the first day of fall. So the sun is getting stronger at this time of the year. We've got sunshine out there now. Temperatures are in the mid-20s. Let's give you a quick look at the overall temperature ideas across the country today. Got a real war going on down in the southeast today, where spring is breaking out in some parts of the southeast, and the cold air is hanging tough back here across the Tennessee Valley and down into the Plain States. This battle zone will rage for a couple of days, leading to all sorts of interesting weather. Since there's not much going on now and there won't be much going on tonight, let's start talking about the situation for tomorrow. Alright, so I'm going to bring up the latest and greatest NAM model. The North American model is what NAM stands for. This is not going to be a problem for first thing in the morning tomorrow. Kids will get off to school just fine. You'll get off to work okay if you're heading off in the morning. But as we head towards midday, this is when things get a little bit more interesting. Alright, so first thing tomorrow morning, here's the setup at 6 a.m. We have high pressure over Pennsylvania, cold air mass over the region, but we have moisture gathering back here, and this moisture is going to kind of attack this high pressure zone, and the upper levels of the atmosphere, or the mid levels, will get warmer faster than down here where we live. So there's going to be a period where it's warmer up at 5,000 feet than down here at the ground, and with moisture pushing in, yeah, that's a recipe for some sleet and freezing rain. I think this really gets going in earnest by about lunchtime. Here's 9 in the morning, probably not quite here yet, but by 11 a.m., I think some of us are going to start to see. The first thing we may see is a little wet snow, actually, but any snow will probably be fairly short-lived, with a transition to sleet at first. And as a reminder, sleet pellets are snowflakes that refreeze after thawing out. They hit a warm layer, they turn to liquid, and then it refreezes, and rain does not refreeze back into snow. It refreezes back into a sleet pellet. You can often hear sleet, pings against your windows and against your siding and that sort of thing. So sleet will probably occur for an hour or two right around lunchtime. Sleet is not as treacherous on the roads as freezing rain, but it's still not great. Then as the warm layer gets deeper and deeper in the atmosphere, we will see a transition, I think, over to some freezing rain. Here we are at 1 in the afternoon on Tuesday. The color code here, this kind of purple color, that's the sleet. The more reddish color here is the freezing rain. So we're seeing that transition at noon, 1 o'clock, over to some freezing rain. This is when things can get pretty slippery. As the kids are getting off the bus, or leaving school later in the afternoon. Here's 3 p.m. and probably still some freezing rain. Now, temperatures at this point will be getting up to around maybe 31, 32. So it's not going to be super far below freezing at this point, but still, I think things can be pretty slippery right around 3 o'clock tomorrow. Notice the rain, the plain rain, is making inroads in central Ohio. The warmer air will eventually win the battle, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take towards the early evening. Here's 5 p.m. I think by this point most places have changed over to plain rain. The exception may be the I-79 corridor over in Mercer and Lawrence counties. This will be a whopper of an ice storm on I-80 in Pennsylvania and across this Franklin, Oil City, Du Bois, Clearfield zone. Bad ice storm over there. Perhaps a damaging ice storm. I'm not expecting this to be a damaging ice storm here locally, but certainly one that we have to take seriously because, again, things are going to be pretty slick right around midday and the first half, at least, of the afternoon. By tomorrow evening, we have changed over to rain. The rain will then start to wind down. Now, the forecast gets a little bit tricky once we get into late tomorrow night and Wednesday. This front's going to stall at a certain point, and the big question for us is, where does it stall? So that'll have implications on our forecast. Here's Wednesday morning, the NAM model here, showing our front down here with rain continuing down near the Ohio River. But some of the modeling has been showing that as we go into late Wednesday and into Wednesday night, the front's going to wobble back to the north, and the air will start to get cold enough to support some frozen precipitation trying to break out. So this is late in the afternoon on Wednesday. Notice snow trying to break back out on the northern side of this front across central and northeastern parts of Ohio. Whoops. And then, so going to tomorrow night. Here's the middle of the night. I should say Wednesday night, not tomorrow night. Wednesday night into Thursday morning. It may snow pretty decently. So this will be something we have to watch out for. The modeling is not in great agreement, but we could have a tricky zone late Wednesday and Wednesday night where we could get a sneaky couple or a few inches of snow as this front kind of wobbles around. So we'll keep you updated on that. That's an evolving forecast. Let's get tomorrow out of the way first. Let's focus a little bit more on tomorrow. A couple of graphics here that I also posted on my weather blog this morning. Just showing the difference between sleet and freezing rain and snow and rain. Sleet occurs when you have a shallow warm layer aloft. As the warm layer gets deeper and the precipitation doesn't have time to refreeze, it's in that above freezing zone, it stays liquid, and then it hits the ground, and the ground's below freezing, and it's freezing rain. When the entire column of air gets above freezing, that's when you just have rain. When the entire column of air is below freezing is when you get snow. Now, how much freezing rain are we going to get tomorrow? That's also an important question. Let's tackle that first. I want to bring up the latest SREF plumes here, short-range ensemble forecast. And if my tab will open, my browser appears to be trying to crash on me. If any of you use Chrome, do you have a problem with Shockwave wanting to crash on you all the time? Hopefully it's not just me. Here's a look at the precipitation amounts forecasted by this model. For tomorrow late morning and early afternoon. By about mid-afternoon, right in here, we've picked up probably on the order of 0.2 of an inch worth of precipitation. Now, that's not a ton of rain, but for freezing rain, that's a fairly significant amount. When we look at impacts, if we start to get more than 1/10 of an inch worth of ice accumulation on objects, you start to run into more and more issues. Let me see if I can expand this graphic, make it a little bigger. Maybe that won't work. But anyway, if this is hard to read, I apologize. Once you get up to 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, that's when untreated roads get really slick. And that's when on trees, limbs can start to bend, perhaps even break, and that could lead to some isolated power outage problems. So we might be in the lower end of this zone tomorrow. There we go, there it expanded. Where we get 1/10 of an inch or 0.15 or maybe even 0.2 of an inch worth of ice. If we get that much, things are going to be pretty tough around here for a few hours during the course of tomorrow. So we'll keep you up to date on social media. I'll have a fresh update tonight on 21 News at 6 and 11, and I'll wrap up this video with good news. If you saw my post earlier on social media, I showed a chart of long-range temperatures forecasted by the latest GFS ensemble model. Well, here's a look at the temperature anomalies, eventually, for days 10 through 15, so taking us into the middle of March. It may load. There it goes. Look at all this warmth. Won't this be wonderful? Now, this could be kind of a false spring. This might, we might get a week where it's really nice, but then it gets cold again. But boy, do we need this. We're desperate for this. This would be from the 12th through the 17th, roughly, and perhaps 60s, perhaps, during the middle of the month. Keep our fingers crossed. That's today's weather for Weather Geeks. I apologize for the slight technical difficulties. I'll see you tonight on the news, and if you don't follow me on Facebook, put meteorologist in front of my name to find me on Facebook, and I'm Eric WFMJ on Twitter.